Everyone, it's Courtney. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a story time video, and as you can tell by the title of this video, it involves my first time getting my period. So if you're kind of like sensitive to talking about such things, this probably isn't the video for you. This is like a warning right now. If you don't like talking about those type of things or hearing about that, or if you're under the age, you know, or you just shouldn't be listening to such things, I would recommend clicking off this video. However, I'm not going to be getting too graphic or anything, you know, so it's nothing too bad. But we're going to be talking about periods, menstrual cycles, all that stuff. So if you want to hear my embarrassing story about my first period, keep watching. Okay, so I got my period for the first time when I was 8 years old, and I was in elementary school, like 3rd or 4th grade, I think. Yeah, I had to have been either 3rd or 4th. And it happened, I think it was either at the beginning of school year when it's still warm outside, or at the end of school year when it's warm outside. One of the two. It was one of those times when I was outside at recess with like a short sleeve shirt on and capri pants. So I had gone to school that day, and I don't remember if I felt weird. I don't think I did. But anyways, I'd gone to school that day, and I think it was in the morning. Like, we'd had 2 like recesses, and in the morning recess, I remember a bunch of us kids, we got to go outside and, you know, play for a little bit. And I remember I got up onto the slide. Of course, this was back, I don't know if they still have these or not, but the old school metal slides where if you went down, you know, with shorts on or something, you'd get like, you know, like that skin burn from going down like the metal slide. So I remember I went down the slide, and when I hit the bottom, I kind of like fell on my butt. And when I stood up, like all the kids around me like were just like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, you know, coming around me as if something was wrong. And I'm like, I didn't fall that hard, you know, like, geez, thanks for your concern, but, you know, and finally one of my best friends like, oh my God, you're bleeding. And I'm just like, I am? Where? And so my friend took me over to one of the teachers that was outside, and they took me into the nurse's office. The nurse like checked me over and everything, and she decided, she goes, I'll be right back. I gotta go pull your file. I gotta call your mom. So I'm like, okay, you know, I'm thinking like, what's wrong? You know? Now I'll preface this by saying at this point, I had never really heard about sex or that sort of stuff, you know. I was still young, you know, so I really didn't know anything about it. So the nurse goes, and she goes to call my mom, and my mom was working at the time, so she couldn't get a hold of her. So the nurse comes back, and she goes, I can't get a hold of your mother or the next contact or whatever. So she goes, you're all right, you know, you're fine. Let's see if we can't find you like a change of clothes. Do you think I had any change of clothes anywhere? Mm-mm. They used to have like lost and found boxes, but they didn't have anything there for like me. That was all for like kindergartners, you know. I was older than that, so nothing quite fit. So I remember that the nurse was like, okay, well, we're just gonna have to send you back to your classroom and finish out the day. So I am finishing out the day wearing pants that are there. They were like khaki tan pants. So of course, you know, starting your first period, I bled right through those babies, right through. So like I had to sit, so it's like kind of like towards like my butt, you know, and I had to sit in those pants all day long. Now mind you, they were like wet, blood stained. Like looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But I had to sit like that all day long. And of course, everybody kept asking me like, what's wrong? You okay? And the worst part is I had a man teacher, and oh God, that's just one thing you don't want to talk about. So the end of the day comes, finally, and I finally get taken home. And I get home, and I have like a note from the nurse and everything explaining what happened. So I hand it to my mom, and she reads it, and she was just like shocked. You know, she couldn't believe, she told me this after, that she couldn't believe that, you know, 8 years old and this was happening to me. So she proceeds to sit me down. And she goes, all right, she goes, I gotta have a talk with you about something. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I keep bleeding, from between my legs, am I gonna live? Am I dying? Like, what's wrong? I was scared. I didn't know what's going on. And she goes, well, I got some things to tell you about. So we sit down on the couch and she starts telling me, like, spilling the beans about everything. So my mom, being my mom, decides that, okay, since she's having to tell me about, the birds and the bees and menstruation and all that stuff, she figures that is also the right time to just get everything out of the way. And okay, so she tells me about, period, sex, she tells me about that. And then she proceeds to tell me that there's no such thing as Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy, or none of that stuff. So I'm just like hearing all this stuff all at once and I'm like, what? Like, day ruined. I mean, I just remember I was so bummed after that. Like, worst day ever. But I find it so funny. Like, my mom she told me after that she just figured that, hey, I was at that point where, I was learning about this stuff, so I might as well know everything. And she just wanted to do it in one swift, sweep clean, get it all done out there in the open. So that's what she did. And to me, it's just funny now, But back then, oh my God, I was just so, like, devastated. Like, man, first I find out that I have to deal with this stuff every month. I have to find out about having to wear pads and tampons. I find out about sex and I'm like, what? And then there's like no Tooth Fairy, no Santa Claus. Like, I have nothing to look forward to now, like, wow. But it's so funny. It cracks me up. That's like one of the most hilarious stories ever. But that was also my most embarrassing moment. Having to sit in class all day long, because like I said, this happened in the morning, all day long in blood-stained tan khaki pants. Oh God, that was bad. I ended up going to another school the next year, thank God, because oh man, that would have been brutal. Yeah, that is my story time. I hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully it gave you a good little chuckle. Yeah, so I guess until my next video, I will see you guys later. Bye.